Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel where we discuss real estate, investing, and how to build wealth. Today we're doing another episode on our Deal Day series. We discuss a new property in a new market to determine if it makes sense as an investment or if it would be a great rental property. So let's get into it. Today we're actually going to look at Raleigh, North Carolina. This is a very special market for me because with my infinite wisdom, when I purchased my first property in Raleigh, North Carolina, it was the perfect timing. It was back in February of 2008. I'll put a picture up of the first property that I ever purchased. But as we all know, the financial crash or the housing crash, real estate crash happened in fall 2008. So it was like the worst time to purchase a property. I ended up purchasing this property for $79,000 and sold it for $88,000 several years later. But that was the first property I ever purchased. So looking at the market of Raleigh, North Carolina, we're actually going to dissect and analyze the property of 4532 Birmingham Way, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27604. But before we actually analyze properties, we like to look at the overall market, make sure everything's good with the macro picture, the overall market. So what is going on in Raleigh, North Carolina? Its major economic drivers are number one, tech, number two, healthcare and education, and number three, government. So that's a very well-rounded area. The major companies that are headquarters in Raleigh, North Carolina and provide most of the jobs are Red Hat, which is a tech company, I think purchased by IBM, Duke University in Health, which provides 41,000 jobs, and 24,000 jobs just come from the local government there. Some of the cool things about Raleigh are that it's known as the Smithsonian of the South, and that's because it has 40 free museums. It's also known as the Silicon Valley of the East. Just because it has a lot of tech companies that provide a lot of jobs there. And it has a major sports team, which is the only major sports team in Raleigh, which is the Carolina Hurricanes, which is an NHL team. Now digging a little bit deeper into the market, let's take a look at population growth. We'll throw up the graph here. Population of Raleigh is 472,540. It has a growth rate of 0.36%. But as you can see that population chart, it's booming. It's been booming ever since 1980s. People are moving to the area. It's growing. So that's great. The job growth is 3% a year, which is awesome. Unemployment's 3%, which is lower than the national average. Average salaries there are $60,000. Medium sales price is $382,000 with an average days on market of 35 days. So that's all great. Median rent in Raleigh is $1,825 or $1,825. And the price to rent ratio is 17.44. So all of those things about the market are terrific. Price to rent ratio, just to remind you, if it's closer to 15, you'll have more cash flowing properties. So this one's a little bit above 15. So we'll see if we can find a good cash flowing rental here. But overall, market fundamentals are phenomenal. I'm going to give it a thumbs up. Let's move on to the Google Street View test. So looking around in the neighborhood of the property that we selected to analyze, it looks like a great neighborhood. It's across from two different cul-de-sacs, which is awesome. It appears to be the smaller house. It's on one level instead of a lot of these two-level houses, but everything checks out. No trash, no hanging out, good clean neighborhoods. We'll give the Google Street Views a thumbs up as well. Moving on to the listing. So the property is listed at $275,000. It's a 3-bed, 2-bath, single-family property. It's 1,413 square feet. It was built in 1992, so relatively new. And looking at the listing pictures, what I'd do if I was rehabbing the property is I'd get rid of all those hanging lights. They make the property seem older. And I just replace them with nipple lights or flush mount lights. And I'd install frame mirrors in the bathrooms to give it a nice classy look so it looked good in the photos. I'd remove all the older white fans and again, put flush mount or nipple lights up there. And you can probably pass in the kitchen with the white appliances that they already have there, but it might be worth upgrading them to stainless steel just to give it a nicer look. They already put the hardware on the cabinets, so you don't have to do anything there. And the last thing, in the front, there is a lot of bushes that look to be or appear to be overgrown. I'd probably try to remove those, xeriscape the property, so you don't have to worry about them getting overgrown, roots into your foundation, roots into your water lines, or at the very least, I'd thin them back and make sure you're just having plants that are low growing that don't need a lot of maintenance. A rehab budget for this property is pretty light rehab. It's in pretty good condition. I'd probably budget for somewhere around $10,000. So if we move on to the analyzer for this property, and Zillow states that rent somewhere around $2,110. I tend to agree with that. And comps in the area are somewhere around $347,000. So pretty healthy margin here if you got the property at $275. Property taxes on this property are $2,300, which is really low, and that's awesome. We love low property taxes. And then if you move on and look at the cash flows of the property, if you purchase this with all cash, it comes out to $1,458 a month cash flow, or 5.99% cash on cash return. And then if you actually put a 30-year fixed at 7%, you're going to have a cash flow of about $61 a month, or 1%. So really low. You can consider that nothing. And that's considering the fact a 10% vacancy rate and a 8% management fee. But overall, not terrible. You're not in the negative cash flows. So not the worst deal I've seen, but definitely not the best deal I've seen. I do think with this property, you're going to be able to get some appreciation over time. So if you were to purchase it and it's just a net neutral property, it's not cash flowing, you should get appreciation over time. The few things that really stick out on this property is it does look like there's a decent amount of deferred maintenance. This property is 30 years old, so there's going to start to be a decent amount of things you're going to have to do. And I just say that looking at the siding, you can either see they cleaned some of the siding, they patched it on the front, something's going on there. So maybe you have to pressure wash it, maybe you got to replace it in the future. And you'd have to consider things like roofing, HVAC, flooring. These are things that are going to be replaced over time. If they haven't replaced those at all since they own the property, then they're going to definitely need to be replaced in the next 5 years. So I would budget for that. So overall, I'm going to give this property a thumbs down because it doesn't cash flow enough. But it's not the worst property I've seen. You could invest in it, and I don't think you'd lose your shirt. You just have to consider it a super long-term play. One thing that I did find that was really cool about this market when I was looking around at comparables for sale that shows that you can invest in this market is I found a flip property. And it wasn't too far away from this house. It's 1932 Spanish Bay Court, Raleigh, North Carolina, 27604. But I saw that this property was listed for $400,000, but it sold for $250,000 3 months ago. So, and it looked like it was an investor that purchased it, that fixed it up. I can just kind of tell that investor style reno. It's usually gray paint. It's very cookie cutter-esque. And I couldn't see the pictures of how they purchased it before, if it was an off-market deal or not. But even if it was a heavy rehab and let's say they put $40,000 or $50,000 into it, they're going to have $100,000 of profit in 3 months. So there are deals to be had in this market, just like this one that I found not too far away, a couple blocks away from the subject property that we just analyzed. So you can find great deals, or for that flip property, because they got it for $250 and put the renovation in, they could keep that and rent it out and it would cash flow. So you have multiple exit strategies there, whether you have it for a long-term rental or you just flip it right off the bat for profit. So guys, I'm going to give the market a thumbs up. And if you find the right property, like this flip property down there, I'll give a property a thumbs up. So you have 2 thumbs up for Raleigh, North Carolina. If you guys find value in these videos, we'd appreciate it if you give us a thumbs up as a thank you. And I'll see you on the next video.